What up, y'all? Manasseh here. Happy New Year, and welcome back to another episode of Minter Mission. 2025 has ended, which means it's time for me to give you my top 10 favorite movies of 2025. Now, as I was creating my list, I've realized that this has been a pretty solid year for movies. I think the second half of the year was better than the first half, but overall, I was still pretty satisfied. I could have easily made a top 20 list, but for this episode, I wanted to keep it just at 10. Didn't want to make a very long episode. And let me just be clear, these are not the best movies of the year. These are just my personal favorites. These are the ones that moved me the most, the ones that stayed in my head the longest, or the ones that just put the biggest grin on my face. So as I go through this list, I will be giving just brief overall thoughts on each film, not going to make it long or detailed. But before I get into my top 10 list, I do want to share a couple of honorable mentions. These are just a couple of films that almost made it to the list, but ultimately haven't. Nevertheless, they're still worth mentioning. So my first honorable mention is Bring Her Back, one of the best horror films I've seen this year. I liked how this film delved into dramatic themes of grief and loss and the extreme measures that people will take to fill a void in their hearts as they're grieving. Also, Sally Hawkins was surprisingly terrifying in this film. To go from Paddington to this was a wild turn for her. My second honorable mention is The Naked Gun. Without a doubt, this was the funniest film I saw this year. Akiva Schaffer somehow managed to reinvigorate the spoof comedy subgenre that was very prominent from the early 80s to the late 90s. But since then, that subgenre of comedy has been dead for a long time. Multiple films have tried and failed at bringing it back, but didn't really work until this. And I was laughing my ass off in the movie theater. Liam Neeson was the perfect person to play Frank Drebin Jr. So those are my two honorable mentions. Now we're to get into the top 10 list. Starting at number 10, I have The Long Walk. Man, to say that this was a brutal watch would be an understatement. Talk about a movie that will make you feel down in the dumps as the credits roll. David Johnson and Cooper Hoffman had great chemistry on screen as they developed a true brotherhood over the course of the walk. And this is the first movie that made me despise Mark Hamill's character. He was despicable in this film, and it's very rare for Mark Hamill to portray a character like that. So that's my number 10. At number 9, I have Begonia. In my opinion, this is a top 3 Yorgos Lanthimos film. This movie is for conspiracy theorists. If you have a friend or relative that loves sharing conspiracy theories, you should recommend this to them. It's suspenseful, it's thought-provoking, and oddly hilarious. Jesse Plemons and Emma Stone were magnetic in this film. Seeing them outmaneuver each other was a blast to watch. So that's my number 9. At number 8, I have F1. This was a damn good summer blockbuster. The race sequences were insane. It has some of the best shots I've seen this year. Now, is it a sports underdog story that we haven't seen before? No. I mean, narrative-wise, it's nothing special or new, but the way it was presented is what makes it unique and exhilarating. It executed all those familiar beats with real heart and style. And Joseph Kosinski, who directed Top Gun Maverick, directed this movie, and he emulated those Maverick vibes, but with racing cars instead of planes. So that's my number 8. At number 7, I have Superman. I loved Superman. It was a breath of fresh air for the DC franchise. It's comic booky, campy, and colorful, which is what I think DC films have been lacking over the last 10 years. I think David Cornsweet was perfect as Superman. He embodied everything that Superman should be about, which are his ideals, his sensibilities, and his faults. Boss Winchell Brosnahan was excellent as Lois Lane, and Nicholas Hoult kills it as Lex Luthor. Almost everything about this movie worked for me, and I can't wait to see where this new era of the DCU goes. So that's my number 7. At number 6, I have Wake Up Dead Man. I love the Knives Out series. I think they're so entertaining to watch, and Wake Up Dead Man is Just that. It's probably my second favorite Knives Out movie. The first one is my favorite, and Glass Onion is my least favorite. What I really liked about this was how it contrasts authentic Christian service with manipulative religious leadership, and how it highlights how faith can be weaponized or used for the greater good. Daniel Craig returns as Detective Benoit Blanc. He is just as charming as the last couple of films. But what really stood out to me was Josh O'Connor. He is at the front and center of this film, and I'm starting to like him more with each project I see of his. So that's my number 6. At number 5, I have Together. I'll admit it, I'm a sucker for body horror films. Last year we had The Substance, and I adored that, and now we have Together. It's gross, it's creepy, but still captivating at the same time. It starts off a little slow, but once things get going, it escalates into absolute madness. I like how it depicted a deep exploration of broken relationships and the struggles that couples go through to mend them. Alison Brie and Dave Franco were great in this, and I hope they do more movies together. That's my number 5. At number 4, I have Weapons. This was another awesome horror flick. It's might be the most unique horror film I saw this year. A story about how every child from a classroom except for one just mysteriously disappears at the same night, at the same time, and it leaves a whole community questioning who or what was behind the disappearance. That alone is a very interesting premise, and I think Zach Cregger executed it very well. And I'm happy that Amy Madigan is getting award season praise. That was my number 4. At number 3, I have Marty Supremes. This movie lived up to the insane hype that it's been getting over the last couple of weeks. Josh Safdie delivered again with another wild, entertaining, anxiety-inducing, chaotic film. If you've seen his previous films like Uncut Gems and Good Time, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. What's interesting about this is that it was advertised as a ping pong epic, but it didn't have a lot of ping pong in it. It was mostly about what ambition looks like when it crosses the line into obsession, and whether that line is smart or delusional, well, that just depends on the person. But it depends on what motivates the dream to actually strive for what you want. And Timothée Chalamet acted his ass off in this movie. He commits to his roles in ways that very few actors can. He is a chameleon at his craft. And I think he's just been getting better over time. So that's my number 3. And number 2, I have One Battle After Another. If you have watched my review on this film, then it should be no surprise that it made it to my top 10. It's an exhilarating, funny, politically charged epic, and I loved it a lot. And this is coming from someone who isn't a big Paul Thomas Anderson fan. Similarly to Marty Supreme, it had me stressed out and anxious from beginning to end, but in a tasteful kind of way. If you haven't seen my review and you want to know more about my thoughts on One Battle After Another, the link for that video will be available in the description box down below, so you can go check that out. So that's my number 2. And at number 1, my favorite movie is him. Yep. I changed my mind on this. This movie is an amazing display of expert writing and filmmaking. It's almost as good as this display of pure, unadulterated sight. But nah, in all honesty, my true number 1 favorite movie is Sinners. Yep, Sinners, baby. Loved it so much that I even got a physical copy of it. So, yeah. I loved Sinners, man. This was the cinematic experience of the year. Culturally, cinematically, musically, nothing is touching Sinners. This is Ryan Coogler's magnum opus. It's more than just a horror film. He made an original story about Black resilience, culture, identity, and using vampires to symbolize cultural appropriation and systemic oppression was a genius move on his part. The performances across the board were stellar. Michael B. Jordan gives the best career of his performance, in my opinion. Wunmi and Musaku and Delroy Lindo were another major standouts. And Ludwig Göransson cooked out of his mind with the score of this movie. I've been listening to it nonstop all year. It is one of the best scores I've heard in any film. So yeah, that's my list. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate the love and support that I've been receiving since I started this podcast, both on YouTube and on TikTok. Please leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And let me know what some of your favorite movies of 2025 are. Drop them in the comment section below. I'd be curious to know. Thank you and Happy New Year.